Well, the theory of music, it's another thing you teach, right? How do students understand that? And how do they put it into life, in their lives? I mean, that they produce music, they compose music. In which way? Is it new or is it old? Are they more related to ideas from the past, or are they able to create something that really comes out of their body now, today?
Yeah. Okay, so Bernd, you asked me about music theory. So often I have to teach basic common practice music theory, which refers to a kind of theory of music that describes the European harmony of the last 200 years. This, of course, is the same harmony that's being used in popular genre music of all kinds today. So it's useful in terms of if you're going to play jazz or rock or something like that, you need some understanding of these tools. Also, if you want to sort of understand the syntax of any historical music from the Baroque period to the present, these tools are useful to understand harmony, structure, phrase structure, rhythm, and music notation. That said, it doesn't really help you much to understand Asian music or African music or Native American music. And it might not help you understand a good deal of contemporary music and electronic music and so on. So I think music theory, common practice music theory is very useful, but it has its limitations. For my students who are composers, I think, I hope that understanding music theory also provides them with some ideas for designing their own syntax. They're designing some kind of new theory, and it's common in contemporary music for a composer to design a kind of music theory that's only going to work for a particular piece. You know, I'm doing a new composition, and I really invent a syntax for that composition that's only going to operate for this one piece. But this idea that a grammar can be invented, understanding the historical music theory gives you some models for how a new grammar could work.
Yeah.
And when I'm teaching composers, I'm also showing them examples of new grammars from the 20th and 21st centuries. So for Schoenberg and Stockhausen and Boulez and people, Lachenmann, these people invented new music theory.
Yeah, yeah. And how do students react on that? And how do they compose today, your students? What are they dealing with? What do they like to create? What is your idea about that?
I think there's many different sensibilities as there are students, but in general, students can be conservative. They can tend to be more interested in the music that they already know. And this is understandable because we all have music that we love, that really moves us, and so maybe our first impulse is to want to create music that's like that's similar to the music that we love already. I try and cultivate a more exploratory sensibility. Some students go for it. Some students have it already. They don't need me for that. And some students just need to be invited to consider other possibilities.
Okay, good. So, what's the best sound?
The best sound?
Yes.
Yes, I don't have a value judgment of particular sounds. Sounds are important as in the functional differences they make over against other sounds.
Wow.
So I wouldn't try and come up with the best color either, or the best shape. The colors and shapes are important over against other colors and shapes. So it's these differences.
Yeah, but if you let's put it in a different shape then. Let's check the last 24 hours of your life.
Mm-hmm.
What was there brilliant for you to explore sound-wise?
Let's see. In the last 24 hours. I would say, in the Hof by our apartment, the Elster and the Amsel were making some crazy sounds in the last 24 hours. They kind of surprised me this morning.
Okay. Good. Well, the next one is a little bit combined with this. Do you think that sound changed through the influence of languages and even traveling? Do you become also more sharp to identify some kind of sounds, or maybe meet them even they were already there in your life, but now because you're more sharp and alert, because you're in a different environment, you can suddenly love them and embrace them,
Yeah, I think that the sound of language influences my musical sound world quite a bit. I often think about trying to make the saxophone talk, or trying to create conversation between different sounds in an electronic piece. So I think speech is a very important influence for me on musical ideas. And
Yeah, and when you bring that to your own German, I mean, it's a huge difference between the English spoken
and German
language and the German.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean,
and I noticed that you speak.
And Japanese is
German.
very different too.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I really love the fact that these different languages not only have different phonemes, but the melodies of German speakers are quite different than the melodies of Japanese speakers and melodies of English speakers. And the rhythms of phrases and so on. This variety is wonderful. And Berlin's just such a fantastic city this way, because on a typical day through the city, I'm also hearing some Polish and some Spanish and Portuguese and Turkish, of course. So I love that. Yeah, I think the languages that I don't understand probably influence my musical ear more than the languages that I understand, because I'm trying so hard to extract the semantic from German or Japanese that maybe I get distracted from the melodies.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have a situation that you watch a DVD, a movie, in a language you don't understand, and you choose subtitles you also don't understand?
I haven't tried that, but thank you for that.
Let's go.
That is a nice assignment. That's a very good assignment.
Yes. Well, let's talk a little bit about food.
Okay.
You like the bread here in Germany?
The bread is fantastic.
What about the bread in Japan and the bread in the United States?
Bread in Japan I wouldn't recommend. Yeah, they have a very plain white bread that's not very interesting. The food in Japan is wonderful, but the bread is not what you go to Japan.
You are a bread lover, right?
Eat. I do love bread.
Yes.
Yeah, in the United States, I tend to, the best bread I tend to make at home.
In your machine? Do you have a bread machine at home? Or
No,
you do it in the old-fashioned way?
I mean, we have an electric mixer that kneads the bread, so if that's old-fashioned. But yeah, we make our own bread sometimes.
What kind of bread do you like here the most in Berlin? Do you have a favorite bread?
Well, the first time I came to Germany, I lived in Stuttgart, so the brezel and the Laugenbrot of southern Germany is a favorite of mine. So even in Berlin, I probably buy a brezel every day.
Okay, so that's for sure you're addicted.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's skip to the next one. Well, how do you create sound samples?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you create sounds to use them later in your work. So it's like creating an alphabet in a way, right? Mm-hmm. So what ideas do you have with that, and do you face difficulties, and is there a situation that you can't choose? What are the possibilities? What's going on there?
Yeah.
Well, in a way, you create a new language. Right?
Yeah,
that you use further on.
So I use a variety of techniques. I use some of the traditional techniques of sound synthesis, like frequency modulation, amplitude modulation, filtering, things like that. My recent work, I use a lot of granular synthesis, where you take recorded sound samples and you break them up into very tiny fragments, maybe from 5 milliseconds to 100 milliseconds long, and you kind of make constellations or clouds of these fragments, thousands of them, and these aggregates create a kind of texture of extracted from pre-recorded sound. I often do things with vocoding, where I use the sound of the saxophone to transform synthesized sound, or I use a synthesized sound to transform the sound of the saxophone. Oftentimes, I'm using the saxophone as a kind of control device to process synthesized sounds, or to control the movement of synthesized sound. So I don't like synthesizer keyboards so much, because they're simply kind of turning things on and off. Whereas if I can do an acoustic analysis of my saxophone playing, the acoustic analysis can be quite detailed. It can describe the spectrum of the sound. It can describe the loudness. It can describe which pitch I'm playing, and it can describe all these things in a dynamic way, constantly changing over time, kind of continuously changing. So I can map those acoustic descriptors onto parameters that are synthesizing sound, so that the sound that's being produced by the computer is changing in several dimensions simultaneously and changing continuously, and that this is being controlled by me in a pretty organic way. I mean, I can control the saxophone in many different ways because it's an acoustic instrument, because I've played it for so long. So I just feel like that's a very rich way of interacting with the synthesized sound, rather than creating loops or turning things on and off.
Okay.
Triggering samples, which is just kind of turning things on and off. This is less interesting.
You don't go out with your microphone and a recorder and record sounds in the garden, or
I do actually. I do stuff like
people,
that.
People talking on the street.
Yeah, yes, I do collect sound that way.
Okay.
And then that sound often gets transformed by some of these other processes, vocoding with the saxophone, or granular synthesis, or yeah.
Okay. And do you also face difficulties in this process? Is there something where you can say, well, normally I go there, but it's difficult to go that direction. I need to do it differently.
Yeah.
Are there difficulties even in composing? Do you face something like that you maybe want to go there and you see it's impossible now?
Well, composing is difficult. I mean, for me, composing is hard work. So I would say, yes, it's always a problem.
Cool.
Coming up with a fresh idea is hard. It's a hard thing to do, and that's my goal, is to kind of come up with a fresh idea, an idea that when I unpack it is going to give me rich variety of new information. So this is tough to find, and it's hard work. I think the things that I really struggle to avoid are just, I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to simply indulge my preferences. There's a lot of things I like, though that's dangerous.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Cool to hear, at least. Yeah, very inspiring also. But I want to go to 2 or 3 pieces I saw on YouTube just recently. It's Snarl number 1. It's a piece with Novalis inside, and it's Prelude number 1.
Okay.
And the Prelude number 1 has kind of a chamber music texture, and it sounds for me almost German.
Well, it should, because it's actually a sample of the prelude to the Bach Cello Suite number 1.
Oh.
And it's granulated and kind of stretched over, I think, 30 minutes or something like this. So yeah, it's German.
I identified it good. Okay. And why did you choose that? I mean, this feeling. Why was it important for you to work with that?
Yeah. So this piece is with this animation, which
exactly.
There's this complex structure that's slowly turning around in space. I think this formal consideration of this geometric structure turning over, but also being modulated in kind of organic ways. It almost looks like it's alive. I thought it was a good analogy between the Bach, which is very formal in a way. It's these arpeggiated figures of a harmonic progression. But the Bach has all this wonderful organic melody going on, all these implied melodies and inner voices and moving bass lines and so on. Those Bach cello suites are very close to me because it's one of the things I use to practice on the saxophone. So I play those cello suites on the saxophone quite a bit. Here's another example of music that I love quite a bit, and I have to find ways of creating frictions that don't merely indulge my love of that music.
Okay, well, that brings me to the next one. That I think your taste in music or of music is huge, right? You love a lot, or at least you can even accept a lot. So how do you deal with a taste like that, and can you give me examples? I can give you at least 3 examples. Mm-hmm. This is Hatsune Miku from Japan. I saw a video on your channel. Uh-huh. Amazing. Kyra Shaughnessy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And John Coltrane. Can you add some more? Some more names.
Oh boy, I mean I'm really curious to hear things that I haven't heard before. So my students are a wonderful resource for just saying, "Hey, Frank, check this out." And they're coming from all over with giving me prog rock and heavy metal and folk music, and so I'm lucky to have all these people throwing new music at me, and I want to be surprised. I want to hear something I haven't heard before, and we're living in this time when the whole world of music and the whole history of music is available to us. I mean, on Spotify I can find music from 1920s Germany, old wax shellac recordings, things like this, and I was checking that out just a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And we can hear music from the jungles of Papua New Guinea, it's incredible. We live in an incredible time. We're so fortunate. Yeah. Boy, it would be a mistake not to have a ravenous appetite.
Yeah. So, what do you think is music? What is that, and why are we so crazy about music? Why do we love music so much? I mean, I never met anyone who's not crazy about music.
Uh-huh.
For sure, there are some people who don't care about anything like music. But why do we love it so much? And what do you think? Where's it coming from? What is it? What is music? What is that?
Yeah, what is that? Well, I think it goes back to art. Always offers us just an alternative way of looking at the world, alternative ways of experiencing the world. We walk around every day, and we still have ears. We're hearing things, and
it's food for our ears, right?
We
need that.
The music we pay attention to ourselves listening. I mean, and this is an essentially human characteristic, is that we have this ability to attend to ourselves attending to something. So I can observe myself observing. And this kind of second order experience is it's essentially human, and it's a chance for us to really transform ourselves, to understand that in our modes of experience, we hold the possibility of reorganizing our sensibilities, of reorganizing our consciousness in a way. So, yeah, music is a kind of phenomenological exercise, right? It's sort of like Husserl's free variation. We observe ourselves in a world of sound.
Yeah. So if you could create a band you would like to be a member in, with who would be the drummer, the bass player, and the keyboard?
My goodness.
Do you have something?
Yeah, this is sort of like Groucho Marx's dilemma. Like, I wouldn't want to be a member of a band that would accept me as a member.
Would you choose Bach as a keyboarder, maybe, and Coltrane as a fellow saxophone player, and something like that?
Wow.
And Ringo Starr on drums.
Ringo Starr on drums. You know, boy, that's an interesting imagination game. You know, as much as I so deeply admire someone like John Coltrane or Bach, you know, their music now exists in a historical space. Like we've lived with Coltrane's music now for 50 years.
And there's even coming out a new album. I mean,
yes,
it's unbelievable.
Which I heard this morning.
Good.
My daughter gave it to me as a birthday present, and it arrived in the mail. Yet, just after we had that conversation. So I listened to it this morning. It's amazing. You'll love it.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, we don't need Coltrane today. I mean, and when we hear players today who imitate Coltrane, they're a disappointment. Because Coltrane was an inspiration, but that was in the 1960s.
Exactly.
It's a different time.
It's a different time.
It's a different time. Yeah. So honestly, I mean, the people I'm seeing in the clubs in Berlin now are the people I want to see. The people who are playing in the jazz clubs in New York and all over the world are the people I want to hear. I mean, I still want to listen to my Coltrane album, but I mean, the people I want to interact with now, in my time, are the people who live with me, who face the same world, the same problems.
And who loves the same bread, maybe.
And who love the same pretzels.
Yes, the Laugen ones. Yes.
So I'm lucky in that way. I live with my contemporaries.
Okay, so you're fine. Okay. Well, last question. Sir, how are you in private?
How am I in private?
Yeah. Are there any secrets you wish to share now?
Secrets I wish to share?
Yes.
Secrets I wish to share.
Do you have some kind of weird hobbies, maybe, or maybe at least hobbies, not even weird ones?
Boy,
you love horror movies.
I watch a lot of bad television. You know, bad science. You know, B movie science fiction. Love that stuff.
You like to cook?
I do love to cook.
What?
Yes, and my wife and I cook together quite a bit. All sorts of things. I mean, we like to make up things. I mean, my base is Italian food coming from my family, because my mom and my grandmothers were good cooks, and and my father actually makes mean chicken cacciatore. So, when Madeleine and I go to a good restaurant, we always try and reverse engineer what we're eating, and then we take it home and try and figure out whether we can do the same.
Cool. And what about sports?
I'm not very sporty, to be honest. In the winter, I go cross-country skiing, which is beautiful in Maine. I can just drive a kilometer to a nice woods and ski down to the water, to the ocean, and it's beautiful.
If you could get the same job you have now in Maine, in Berlin, would you come here to live here?
I would. I think I would. I think. I just think the stimulation of the city and of the intensity of the cultural life of the city is something that I really enjoy. But I'm lucky because I have this wonderful job in Maine, and I enjoy teaching very much. But I think I'll be returning next summer to Berlin and spending the summer here. Great.
Hopefully we can meet then again.
It would be my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're a good interviewer. I can tell you've done this before. Okay, what are your secrets? I mean, you don't have, it's not on camera, so you're safe.